If you look online, you'll hear countless stories of people losing weight, healing chronic diseases, and transforming their lives on the carnivore diet. Whereas for others, they don't even make it past the first few weeks. So, what's the difference between such success and failure? Is it because they're eating different carnivore foods than you, or is there something else they're doing that you don't know about? Well, in this video, I'm going to break down the simple yet overlooked mistakes that separate the carnivore success stories from those who struggle, so that you can avoid the common pitfalls, stay consistent, and finally get the results you've been hoping for on the carnivore diet. So, let's get into it. The first mistake is one of the most common mistakes people make on the carnivore diet, and it's often the main reason they don't get the results that they're looking for. What a lot of people forget is that meat contains many essential nutrients like vitamin B12, creatine, carnitine, and choline that you simply can't get from plants. So for many people, when they start the carnivore diet, because they haven't eaten enough meat in the past, they're often deficient in many of these key nutrients. So people start carnivore, and because we've all been told that to stay in shape you have to eat small portions, they treat it like every other diet. They try to restrict their portions and end up eating nowhere near enough meat. The truth is, in order to heal and feel your best, you need to be eating enough. Your body needs fuel, not just for energy, but to restore those nutrient levels. If you're under eating, you're not giving your body the chance to heal properly, and you're not going to see the results you hope to see on carnivore. For some people, this is actually why appetite increases when they first start carnivore. Your body suddenly goes, whoa, this is exactly what we've been missing, we want more. So your appetite increases at first as your body tries to catch up and restore those nutrient levels. But if you are one of these people who starts carnivore and notices an increase in appetite, don't worry. What happens over time, typically within a couple of months, is once your nutrient stores are topped back up, your appetite will drop naturally. Now, this doesn't happen to everyone. For me personally, I was already eating a lot of meat before I started carnivore. So basically right away, I noticed my appetite was actually much lower than it was when I was eating a standard high carbohydrate diet. But as a general rule, I think it's a great idea when starting out on carnivore to eat 3 meals a day with as much fatty meat so you get to a point where you're comfortably full. By doing this, you will ensure you're getting enough nutrients and energy to heal and feel your best. So that's mistake number 1. Not eating enough, especially when starting out. This next mistake is one that pains me every time I see it. And for so many people, if they simply didn't do this one thing, it would completely change their life. What happens for some people on carnivore is that things don't go exactly as they'd hoped. They've seen all these success stories online, people healing quickly, dropping weight fast, and feeling incredible. But then they don't quite see the same results straight away. And they start thinking to themselves, maybe this isn't for me. So they quit. But what they don't realize is that for some people it can take a lot longer to see results than it does for others. I've worked with people who've felt and looked like completely different people within 30 days of starting carnivore. And I've also seen people take months to see these kind of changes. Everyone's timeline is different, but the mistake a lot of people make is quitting too soon just because they don't see results straight away. For so many people, if they simply just gave carnivore a longer chance and committed to say 90 days instead of 30, their lives would completely change. So that's the second mistake which holds many people back. Not giving carnivore enough time for it to actually work. Now, one thing I've seen quite a bit is people saying carnivore isn't working for them. But when you look closer, it actually is. Let's say they came to carnivore hoping for a number of things. Maybe better energy, less joint pain, and weight loss. And 30 days later, their joint pain is completely gone. Their energy's up, but they're upset because they haven't lost that much weight. So they give up and say, well, carnivore didn't work for me. To me, carnivore is working. They're simply just not looking at the full picture. One of the best things you can do to stay motivated is to make a list. Literally, write down every single thing that's improved since starting carnivore. That way, if one goal is taking longer than you hoped, you can look back at that list and remind yourself of all the wins you've already had. This right here makes it a lot easier to stay on track when you're not feeling motivated. Another great tool is getting your blood work done. When you can see that your inflammation markers are down, your fasting glucose and insulin are lower, and on top of that, you've got much more energy. It gives you a whole new level of motivation to keep going. Even if you haven't hit every goal yet, you can still clearly see that you're on the right track. Now, if you'd like to get your own blood work done, I highly recommend today's sponsor, LabCorp On Demand. LabCorp On Demand offers over 70 lab tests that you can do directly. No doctor's appointment is needed. Getting a full blood panel can be frustrating. Many doctors either ask endless questions or flat out refuse to test for certain markers. But it's not like this anymore. Now you can use the link below to purchase a test, then either schedule an appointment or walk into one of LabCorp's 2,000 plus patient service centers for sample collection. Your sample is collected just like it would be in a doctor's office. There's no need to prick your own finger. All testing is performed at LabCorp's CAP-accredited CLIA-certified clinical laboratories, which process over 3 million samples every week. Within days, you'll receive an email when your results are ready, and you can access everything in your LabCorp on-demand patient account. My favorite part is how comprehensive their tests are. For example, the men's health test includes a comprehensive metabolic panel, the complete blood count, a full lipid panel, HbA1c, and total testosterone, all in one test. If you're looking to get your blood work done, I highly recommend clicking the link in the description below. You'll get 20% off your entire order. The link will take you directly to the men's health test, but if you use my code Carnivore, you'll get 20% off any test. Thanks again to LabCorp On Demand for making videos like this possible. Now, as long as you're eating enough fatty meat and give Carnivore enough time, chances are you're on the right track. But this next mistake in many cases often leads to fatigue and even cramps. What a lot of people do when they start Carnivore is they use the same amount of salt on their food as they typically would. But this right here can be a big problem. About 40% of salt is sodium, and sodium is essential for retaining water. Without enough sodium, and therefore without enough water retention, you can run into fluid balance issues. That's when you start to feel low energy, you get brain fog, and you can get muscle cramps. When you start a carnivore diet, your need for salt actually goes up due to a couple of reasons. Firstly, most people are used to getting loads of sodium from processed foods. Processed foods are packed with sodium, so when they start a carnivore diet and cut out these processed foods, they don't replace the sodium they were getting from before, and at the very same time, you're now eating very few carbohydrates, and that causes you to retain even less sodium. The quick science behind this is when you eat carbs, your blood sugar spikes considerably, and your body releases a hormone called insulin. Insulin's job is to help move that sugar from your blood into your cells. But insulin also helps your kidneys hold on to electrolytes, and sodium is an electrolyte. So when you go low carb and start eating mainly protein and fat instead, because proteins and fats don't spike your blood sugar like carbohydrates do, your insulin levels, they drop. And that means your body starts flushing out more sodium than it usually does. So now you're getting less sodium due to the fact you're not consuming processed food. And you're also retaining less because you're not consuming as many carbs. This right here is why many people can run into low sodium issues when starting carnivore. To prevent these low sodium levels, the best thing you can do is add more salt to your meat than you're used to. A simple rule is salt to taste. Your food should taste pleasantly salty. For many people, this may seem like it's a lot of salt. When I first started, I was putting huge amounts of salt on my meat, but that was simply what tasted good. And over time, as my body adapted and got better at holding on to sodium in a low carbohydrate state, I naturally found I'd put less and less on my meat, simply because that's what appealed to me. If I had a steak right now with the same amount of salt on it as one of the steaks I had when I first started, it would taste way too salty for me to eat. In fact, some people on carnivore eventually end up using no salt after many years on the diet. But in the beginning, it's likely you'll need to add more salt than you're used to. And this small change alone can make a huge difference to how you feel when starting out. So that's the third mistake, not adding enough salt when starting out on carnivore. This next mistake is one most people would never consider could possibly be a mistake. In some plants, there's a powerful compound that over 90% of Americans use every single day. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's called caffeine. Now, the reason plants produce caffeine is to protect themselves. When insects try to eat a plant containing caffeine, the caffeine attempts to defend the plant by frying the brain of this insect. But when humans consume caffeine, because we are much larger, it doesn't fry our brains. Instead, it blocks us from feeling tired. How this works is in order to feel tired, your body releases a chemical called adenosine. When adenosine binds to specific receptors in your brain, you feel tired. So adenosine is basically your sleepy hormone. But adenosine only makes you feel tired when it binds to these receptors, not just when it floats around. And the thing with caffeine is that it has a very similar structure to adenosine. So it actually sneaks in and binds to those same receptors. As a result, it blocks adenosine from doing its job. And just like that, you don't feel tired. The problem is your brain notices this. So to compensate, it builds more of these adenosine receptors over time. What happens if you suddenly quit caffeine cold turkey is all of that adenosine floods in and hits all of those extra receptors all at once. That's why quitting caffeine can feel like you've been hit by a truck. Many people feel exhaustion, headaches, zero motivation, and that heavy brain fog, sometimes lasting days or in some cases even up to a month. So what can happen to a lot of people is they start carnivore, they cut out all plants right away, and since caffeine comes from plants, they also quit caffeine at the same time. Now they're going through caffeine withdrawals. They feel awful, but it's not because of carnivore, it's because they quit caffeine. But they don't realize that, and they blame the diet, and they think to themselves, well, carnivore just isn't for me. So the next mistake is quitting coffee or all caffeinated beverages right at the start. Many people continue to drink coffee on carnivore as it doesn't seem to cause them many problems. But because it is a plant and therefore contains defense chemicals, some people do find they do better without it. If you do decide you want to quit coffee or caffeine, do carnivore for at least 30 days first. Then remove caffeine after that. This way you can actually see how carnivore makes you feel without having anything else affecting you. The final mistake a lot of people make relates to the carnivore foods they primarily eat. In particular, it's really important to be eating enough ruminant meat. Ruminant meat comes from animals like cows and sheep. The name comes from their stomachs, ruminant stomachs, which are incredibly complex. They actually have 4 chambers, which allows them to extract a lot more nutrients from their food. Because of this advanced digestion, their meat and fat ends up being much more nutrient dense than meat from monogastric animals such as chicken or pigs, which only have a single chambered stomach and are often fed less nutritious grains. Because with ruminant meat you're often getting more nutrients in, you'll likely find that you have more energy. Personally, I've found that the higher the percentage of ruminant meat my diet is, the more energy I have. And honestly, almost everyone I've talked to says the same thing. You definitely don't need to avoid other meats. There's still incredible options. But if you really want to feel your absolute best, it's a good idea to be having ruminant meat, ideally at least once per day. So that's the final mistake, not prioritizing ruminant meat. Those are the 5 biggest mistakes that prevent people from feeling their best on a carnivore diet. One thing I didn't discuss in this video are the mistakes that prevent people from losing weight on a carnivore diet. The reason for that is because I made this video a couple of weeks ago. So if you're trying to lose weight on the carnivore diet, this video right here is for you. Anyway, as always, great speaking with you. See you next time.